everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are going to primarily be working on a corset belt. So this is one of those like Edwardian style, I mean in this case it is actually Edwardian corset belts where you have that really wide belt that actually has structure in it and like boning and everything, and it is worn on the exterior of an outfit because it is a belt. So it is worn over a corset, but again, it does have structure. So this is something that I feel like is really great for history bounding too, because you can actually wear this, you know, without a corset underneath. Just make sure that it fits those measurements that you have. But for me, in my case, I'm going to be making it for this outfit right here, which if you have not watched last week's video, that video contains the making of the jacket and the skirt that I'm wearing here. This blouse is from a couple years ago. So go watch that video, which I will link up here and down below if you have questions about that. I am also going to be finishing off this jacket this week because you might be able to tell there's no cuffs on this jacket. So we need to put a cuff on and we need to just bind off the neckline and the waist. Everything else is already done. But this jacket is going to tuck into the corset belt that I'm making. So these little lapels here will hang over the belt, and then the corset belt will go like where my hands are right here. The rest of the jacket will tuck into it, and it will be made out of this black cotton sateen that you can see on the lapels, just like the cuffs will be. So we've got some exciting work to do to finish this week's project. First thing I'm going to do is actually go ahead and bind off this jacket and possibly do the cuffs, but then I will get to patterning that corset. So if you are primarily interested in just the corset belt, you can skip to this timestamp right here, and I will try to remember to put chapters down below as well so you can just click on it, but skip to this timestamp if you are really just here for the corset belt. But in the meantime, I am going to go finish off the edges of this jacket. All of the edges on the neckline and also down at the hem and everything, even the inside of the facing, all of those are now all stitched down nicely by hand. So that means that the only thing left to do on the jacket itself are the cuffs. Now, while I had it on before, I kind of noted that I want a 4-inch wide cuff. I hope that's not too long, it's pretty wide, but that is what I want. So it's not going to be like a turned back cuff or anything. It's just going to be like a folded edge cuff. And I'm pretty certain that I want to do it as like a large, it's not a trapezoid. It's this shape where it's like 2 trapezoids with the small sides put together, but it's all one piece. I don't know what shape that would be, but that shape. And so that way it winds up being a little bit wider, like at the elbow, than it is 4 inches down from there, because, you know, your arm gets narrower. And so I am just going to take a piece that is 9 inches wide total with that weird shape like that, where the bottom is curved in a little bit. And I am going to cut that out of the cotton sateen, and I'm going to line it with twill. And then that just gets seamed together on the edges and then sewn on to this. I'm pretty sure that's the order of operations. Something like that. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I am going to cut everything out and flatline it together and put my cuffs on. So yes, end to end, this is the trapezoid shape with the little waist right here in the middle. And by waist, I mean the bottom of the cuff, because now what happens, now that I've pressed that seam, is that it gets folded in half like this. And basically one side, the outside, will be attached to the sleeve, and the inside will be pressed down inside and then stitched there. So it just winds up making a really nice, clean finished edge like that, and that winds up being the cuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually I'm probably gonna attach it to the sleeve after rehearsal, because I think I'm gonna go ahead and scoot off to rehearsal. So the cuffs are on, which means that the jacket is actually done, but I have to admit, I just am not sure, like they seem so wide. I think it'll have to be something that I kind of feel if I like them or not once they're on, because they just seem so wide. Again, they're 4 inches wide, but it just seems like a lot. And again, they are the black sateen to match the lapels here, and the cummerbundy belt, corset belt thing that we're going to make next is going to be the same. So the jacket portion is done. Tomorrow we are moving on to the corset belt. So it is now finally time for the corset belt portion of this video. I say finally because it's been at least a few days since I have filmed anything for this video, if not more than a few. It is now Sunday evening, so I'm going to attempt to make this belt this evening. Now, I don't think that it should be too bad. I have made stuff like this before, and in fact, this is going to be pretty similar to the purple silk velvet belt that I made for my 1890s outfit last summer, except that this is going to be wider and not silk, luckily. I may still do some sort of like a pleaty, ruchy type effect, kind of like I did on the lavender belt. But again, this is structured. So this, what you're seeing right here, is a piece of boning in here. And because my one that I'm making for this video is actually going to be a lot wider than this, we're going to need more boning. So my guess is at least 3, if not even as many as 7 pieces of boning are what I'm going to be using in this belt that I'm making today. So this was made with the black snail belt pattern that comes with the 1890s day blouse, and I did make changes to this pattern. Everything should be in the video for this, so I will link that video down below, but we're going to be making even more changes. And I do also have with me the black snail belt pattern that is from the Edwardian jumper dress. I'm kind of thinking that I used this as my base pattern for the belt that is attached to my jumper dress skirt, which is completely different jumper dress than their pattern, but I do think I used the belt for it, if I can remember. That was back in 2020, so a little bit ago. But these two patterns are kind of similar. This one is obviously a lot wider, which is good. So that is the width difference of those. And this one was meant to be a lot longer, but I had actually folded in a lot of that. So the width on this narrower one is correct. By width, I mean width around the waist, but the height is a little bit closer on this one, except honestly, it might even be a little bigger because I feel like I want my finished one to be this size, as in we have to add seam allowance to that. So we're just going to kind of cobble together these two. Again, the length on this one around the waist, it is correct. So that'll help. I mean, I did use a different corset for that, but I don't think it should affect too much to the point where we should be able to just alter that like via the hooks and eyes for the closure. I think that should be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make a mock-up out of canvas, and I probably will go ahead and try that on over the corset and skirt and jacket and everything, because that's the thing, like I need to chuck the jacket into this so it does get a little thicker. So yeah, I'm going to make a mock-up based on these patterns, but make it nice and tall and wide. And then once the canvas mock-up is correct, then we can cut out the cotton sateen that I'll be using, and I'll figure out if I want that pleaty element in there as well. All right, so here we go. And of course we've got the whole black on navy thing where you can't see anything again, but I think that it's pretty much great. I was a little bit worried because when I first put the belt on, I felt like it was actually coming up a little bit too high for the divot in the lapel, but I think it's working. I don't know, maybe it just had to settle into its place because I feel like I pulled. The one thing is that the jacket is not like staying here like I would want it, and so I think that I need some way to maybe secure it within the belt. So I'm not sure the best way to do that, but that would be like after I make the belt, then I'll figure that out. And maybe once the belt is like nicely tightly fitted and not being held on with a pin, then that won't be an issue. But yeah, I don't know how much you can see of this at all, but the lapels are sticking out from the belt right now. And there is like kind of a bubbliness here on the belt, but again, I think that's because it's not like pulled tight in the back. I feel like I have quite a bit of overlap, but I don't want to get rid of the overlap. Frankly, I'd rather have a little extra overlap and then just have like hooks and eyes going both directions like I do on a skirt, rather than like take it off entirely. So yeah, I think that's good. And I think the point looks really nice. The width looks really nice. Where the curve in the waist, I think that's good. I feel like with me, potentially I could have had like another curve right here, but I am not going to worry about that because that is more engineering than I want to figure out. So yeah, the curve in the waist definitely helps right there. And then I'll just pull that a little bit tighter there. So I think this is great. And so what this means, I think I'm gonna do it flat as opposed to pleated, just because again, that'd be something I'd have to figure out. I might play around with it and see what pleated would look like if I do some like pleating or gathering or whatever on the sateen. And once I figure that out, then I can go ahead and just cut out the sateen using this. So I'll just take apart the seams, cut out the sateen using this. By the way, I don't even think I mentioned, but I did press up 1/2 inch on here. So this is the finished size because I've pressed in the seam allowances. That's really, really helpful when you're going to go like look at how something actually fits, to press in the seam allowances and get them out of the picture. But yeah, so I will use this to cut out that, and then I'll come back to this and seam this together. I think that's what I did on this belt. Yes, so I assembled each one separately. I assembled the outside and the inside separately because the inside gets the boning put on it, and that I just use bias tape channels. So once I have this reassembled, I will take some boning and bias tape channels, and I'm gonna do one here, probably here, and then probably the side seam or right near the side seam because that is a curved seam, so it might be hard to do. And honestly, probably one here too. So I think I will go with all 7 just to keep this really nice and fitted. And I'm just gonna use synthetic whalebone in those channels. So let's go ahead, take this off, play with our sateen, and then get it cut out. I've decided that I do like it pleated. I just think it gives a nice look. So what I'm doing here is basically I took the satin fabric, the sateen fabric, and I laid it out, and then I just made some little tucks. I did not measure, I eyeballed, and I decided that 3 seemed like a good amount because a 1/2 inch on top and bottom are going to go away for seam allowance. And so I just made those tucks. I did try to make these 2 even, but again, I didn't measure. It's just by eyeball. And what I will be a little more careful about is making these even from piece to piece, or I guess from piece to piece. But I pleated them all up while this was a large flat piece of fabric, and then I laid this on top and cut around it so that it was the right size. And so now I have 2 pieces that are the same size. I'm going to do this with my other 2 pieces, and then this will be probably stitched in place, basted on the edges, and then this will be probably serged, honestly, because this fabric frays, if you look at it wrong, you can see it's already serged. I literally just cut this. And so I'll probably serge this one, even though all the seam edges will be encased, and then I will assemble all 3 of these together and all 3 of these together. Then the boning can be added to this piece. So this is what the outer piece looks like right now with all of the pleats in there. This one has 4 pleats, and then the other ones have 3. I've decided to not serge it. Hopefully that's not a bad idea, but I can remove the pins now because I've basted this right here and I've basted the ends, and then this seam is actually already sewn. Likewise, I have sewn that seam on the canvas side, so now I can start putting the boning channels on the canvas. And for the boning channels, I'm actually going to put them on like this side right here. So it's the side that's facing into my body, because there's more risk of the boning channels showing through this side if you put them in between the 2. So they're going to go on this side here. All of the boning channels are now on. Lion is squeaking away right outside, and the bones are all in the channels as well. I've closed off the ends. At first I was going to put this right sides together with the pleated portion over here, but that would involve turning with all of the bones in here, and that just sounds awful. So I think what I'm going to do is I am actually just going to fold in the seam allowance on this piece and on this piece, and then I'm going to top stitch them together like this. Now on this one, because it was velvet, and you know, velvet is awful, I actually hand stitched it, but it's already after midnight. I wanted to get this finished and, you know, edited tonight, which isn't happening. Luckily tomorrow's Memorial Day, so that's okay. But I am not going to hand stitch this. I am going to machine stitch it, and it'll hopefully look very nice. So the belt is all assembled now, and I'm just kind of testing to see where the hook and eye closures need to be, like how much it overlaps, because it is overlapping quite a bit. And so I think what's going to happen, I mean, like right now I'm just holding it back here, but I think that basically I need to mark where the center is, and then I can have one side, probably the left side. The left side will extend underneath and then just like finish off and have the bars on it, because it'll be the underside and it'll have a tab that underlaps. And then the right side will need to be just ending at center, because otherwise there will be a line like not at center. It won't be obvious or anything, but I think it needs to end right at center, and then the excess just needs to be like cut off or tucked in or folded in or something like that, so that it can end right at center. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure that out and just like fold and or cut off the edges and put some hooks and bars on, and I'll be done. Well, it is all done. I have to be honest, I don't know that I love the look. I feel like I had wanted the jacket to be more vertical here, where it's really coming together here, which I think was the jacket being a little bit too large maybe. And then it's also like barely, in fact, I think it slipped out again. It was barely tucking in the back, and yeah, it's pretty much just meeting. And I don't know if that's that the belt is riding down, the jacket's riding up, the jacket's just too short. I don't know. It's also just, I don't know, like it's supposed to be an unflattering dress. I know that's a line in the play, but I just don't feel like it's flattering. One thing that I did to keep the jacket together at all, because I had to put the belt on, like do the clasps up here and then twist it, was I put a little safety pin basically right there. I think you can see that now. And that way it helped the jacket stay together. But I think it's just, for one thing, it's bringing the jacket together. Yeah, see, that's the better opening when it's like right there. But then it's probably not going to stay tucked in without that. So I don't know. Maybe it's that I should do the thing of where I just wear the jacket out, because that was one of my thoughts of just wearing the jacket out. I'm not seeing it in the mirror, I'm seeing it in the monitor, so I don't know what this actually looks like. Let me go take a look in the mirror. So I do think that I actually prefer it better out. I'm kind of wondering about maybe doing something where the jacket will hold itself right here. I don't know, like a snap or something, just like for the theater's sake. Obviously snaps won't work if I want to wear this without the jacket. Oh, that's true. And I was thinking of wearing this in a scene without the jacket. So maybe not snaps. Maybe a hook, actually, like a little hook and bar, because I feel like the bar could blend in really well with the belt, and I could just hook the jacket in like that. I don't know. Or maybe I'll wear it open. Tomorrow's our first dress rehearsal, so maybe I'll just see how it goes like this, where the jacket is just over, see how I feel about that, and then decide if I want to do any further tweaking. But for now, at least, I'm going to call it done. I do like it better with it not tucked in, and I think it will look quite nice without the jacket as well. I don't know how much you can see with this black on navy blue, honestly, but I mean, I do like the look of the belt overall. It's very cummerbundy meets Edwardian belt meets corset, which kind of makes sense because it's kind of what an Edwardian belt is. So I guess we'll go with it. So anyway, that is the end of my projects for ragtime. Next week we are going into entirely different things, no longer sticking with the Edwardian period. So I hope that you have enjoyed these Edwardian projects. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and other costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon, Julie, and Mirage. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!